A little girl in a pink dress, a quiet bear who almost never speaks, and a cartoon that somehow crossed languages, borders, cultures, and algorithms. Most people know Masha and the Bear as a funny children's animation, but behind this simple cartoon is a much bigger story. A story about Russian folklore, a story about animation, a story about child voice actors, a story about YouTube history, and a story about why the whole world understood Masha, even when she didn't need many words. This is not just the story of a cartoon. This is the story of how chaos, patience, childhood, and a silent bear became a global phenomenon. Welcome to Titan 007. Here, we don't just review cartoon, we look for a hidden story behind them. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories are not the loudest ones. Sometimes they are hidden inside something that looks simple. A child, a bear, a forest, a joke, a song, a voice. And in the case of Masha and the Bear, what looks like a small children's show became one of the most successful animated brands in the internet age. But to understand why, we have to go back before YouTube, before billions of views, before international dubbing. We have to go back to a much older story. Long before Masha became a 3D animated character, her name was already connected to an old Russian children's folktale. The traditional story of Masha and the Bear is simple but powerful. A young girl in the forest. She ends up in the house of a bear, and through cleverness, courage, and a little trickery, she finds her way back home. Like many folktales, it was not just entertainment, it carried a lesson. The forest was the unknown, the bear was danger, the child was innocence, curiosity, and survival. But the modern cartoon changed something important. Instead of making the bear a threat, the series turned him into a protector. Instead of making Masha a frightened girl, it made her fearless, loud, curious, and unstoppable. And that one change transformed the entire story. The old tale was about escaping the bear. The cartoon became about living with him. This is where the magic begins. The modern series Masha and the Bear was created by Oleg Kuzovkov and produced by Animaccord Animation Studio. It first appeared as a Russian 3D animated family series, but it was built on a very unusual strength. It did not depend heavily on dialogue. Many children's shows rely on words, explanations, and lessons spoken directly to the audience. But Masha and the Bear use something more universal: facial expressions, physical comedy, music, movement, reaction, rhythm, and emotion. That made it easy to understand even if you did not speak Russian. You didn't need to understand every word Masha said. You understood her energy. You understood the bear's exhaustion. You understood the chaos. And you understood the love behind it. This is why the series could travel. Not because every culture is the same, but because every culture understands one thing. A child can bring chaos into a quiet life, and love often means cleaning up the mess. Masha is not written like a perfect child. That is the secret. She is messy, loud. She is impatient. She is emotional. She wants everything now. In other words, she feels real. Children see themselves in her because she does what children wish they could do. She enters every room like the world belongs to her. She asks questions without fear. She breaks rules without understanding consequences. She turns ordinary moments into disasters. But she is not evil. That is important. Masha is chaos without cruelty. She is not trying to destroy the bear's peace. She simply has too much life inside her, and that is why people forgive her. Because behind every accident is innocence. Behind every problem is curiosity. Behind every loud moment is a child who wants to play, learn, be loved. This is the psychological power of Masha. Is not just funny, she is childhood turned into a character. And then there is the bear. The bear is one of the most important parts of the entire formula because he barely speaks. He does not need long speeches. He does not explain his feelings. He does not lecture Masha every episode. He reacts. And that makes him universal. The bear is the tired parent, the patient guardian, the older brother, the protector, the adult who just wanted one quiet day and didn't get it. Children laugh at what Masha does. Adults understand what the bear feels. That is the double audience. For children, the show is comedy. For adults, it is survival. The bear is funny because he is always pushed to the edge, but he is loved because he always comes back. He may get frustrated, he may get tired, he may dream of peace, but he never stops protecting Masha. And maybe that is why the show works so well. Masha is chaos, the bear is patience, and every episode is a little battle between the two. But a character is not only animation. A character becomes alive when it gets a voice. And Masha's voice is one of the biggest reasons the character feels so real. In the original Russian version, Masha was first voiced by Alina Kukushkina, who began voicing the character as a young child. That detail mattered, because Masha does not sound like an adult pretending to be a child. She sounds like a child. The timing, the energy, the sudden emotional changes, the laughter, the impatience, all of that feels natural because the voice carried real childhood energy. Later, the Russian voice of Masha changed, with actresses such as Varvara Sarantseva and Yulia Zunakova becoming part of the character's voice history. And in the English version, Masha was voiced across different seasons and episodes by several young actresses, including names such as Elsie Fisher, Rebecca Bloom, Angelica Kimi, and Caitlin McCormick. This is something many viewers never think about. When a cartoon becomes global, one character can have many voices, different languages, different tones, different childhoods, different performances. But the goal stays the same. Masha must still feel like Masha. Wild, curious, funny, unstoppable. And that is the hidden art of dubbing. The voice actor does not just translate words. The voice actor translates personality. So how did a Russian cartoon become so globally understandable? The answer is not only marketing, it is design. Masha and the Bear was built with a language the whole world already speaks: visual comedy. A fall is funny in every language. A surprised face is understood everywhere. A messy kitchen does not need subtitles. A tired bear sighing after another disaster is universal. The episodes are short, the rhythm is fast, the stories are simple, the emotions are clear, and that made the cartoon perfect for YouTube. Parents could play it for children, children could replay it again and again. And because the dialogue was not the only source of meaning, the show could travel across countries faster than the other cartoons. That is the genius. The series did not ask the world to understand Russian. It used animation so the world could understand Masha. Then came the episode that turned Masha and the Bear internet history. Recipe for Disaster. A short episode about Masha, cooking, chaos, and one very tired bear. On the surface, it is simple, but online, it became enormous. The episode received Guinness World Records recognition as the most viewed cartoon or animated video on YouTube, with more than 3.3 billion views recorded by December 2018. Think about that. A short animated episode, not a Hollywood trailer, not a music video, not a superhero franchise. A little girl, a bear, a recipe, a disaster, and billions of views. Why? Because it had everything YouTube loves. Simple visuals, repeatable comedy, clear emotion, short length, child-friendly energy, and a story that could be watched again and again. The algorithm, it was perfect. For children, it was funny. For parents, it was easy. For the world, it had almost no explanation. That is how a small cartoon moment became a digital monster. The real reason Masha and the Bear works is not only animation. It works because the relationship is psychologically simple and emotionally deep. Masha represents impulse. The bear represents control. Masha represents childhood. The bear represents responsibility. Masha wants the world now. The bear wants peace. Masha creates disorder. The bear restores balance. That is the engine of the show. Every episode begins with a quiet world. Then Masha enters. Then everything breaks. Then Bear suffers. Then somehow love survives. This is why the show is funny, but also strangely warm. Because underneath the chaos is a relationship many people recognize. A child does not always understand of care. A child does not always understand the power of play. But together, they create something human. That is why the bear matters so much. He is not just a character. He is patience in animated form. Of course, when something becomes this big, people begin to interpret it in different ways. Some critics and commentators have looked at Masha and the Bear through the lens of culture, politics, and soft power. Others see it simply as a successful, independent series that became global because it was funny, visual, and easy to understand. For this video, the most important point is not to force one political answer. The important point is this. When a children's cartoon becomes a global phenomenon, it stops being only entertainment. It becomes culture. It becomes export. It becomes memory. It becomes a symbol people argue about. And that shows how powerful animation can be. A cartoon can begin as a story for children and end up being part of how the world sees a country, a culture, and a generation. So what is Masha and the Bear really about? Is it about a little girl and a bear? Yes, but it is also about something deeper. It is about chaos and patience, energy and responsibility, childhood and protection, freedom and care. Masha is the part of childhood that refuses to stay quiet. The bear is the part of adulthood that keeps choosing love, even when it is tired. And maybe that is why the series traveled so far, because every culture understands chaos, every family understands patience, every child understands play, and every adult understands the bear's face when one more thing goes wrong. Behind the jokes, the songs, the cooking disasters, and the billions of there is a simple emotional truth. Masha and the Bear works because it turns everyday family chaos into a fairy tale. And maybe that is why people keep watching, not just because it is funny, but because somewhere inside that forest, between the little girl and the silent bear, we recognize something real. This was the real story behind Masha and the Bear. If you grew up watching this cartoon, tell me in the comments. Which version did you hear first? Russian, English, or another language? And what should Titan 007 explore next? A cartoon? A movie? A character? Or another hidden story behind something the world thinks it already knows? This is Titan 007, and every story has a deeper world behind it.